Hola mi gente, ¿qué tal? I hope you all are having a lovely day and welcome back to my foyer. So last week we planted two planters utilizing plants that I have never grown before in my own garden, but they turned out so beautiful and go right along the theme with fall decor. Typically for my front steps, I decorate using pumpkins and mums, which are classic for fall, and some hay. But this year I wanted to try something different, and I think that the planters turned out so cute. And I know that I don't have a porch per se, but my husband and I sit out there sometimes with a glass of wine in the evenings watching the sunset, and we have some of the best conversations out there, and it's just a very sweet time out there. So I've always called it a porch. We've always called it a porch, so it's stuck. So I wanted to carry that fall theme into the other two planters that were already on our front steps. My mom actually bought the two that we're going to be planting up today for my husband for his birthday this summer. It was so sweet. They planted them up together, and those were a good summer container, but don't carry on to the fall and don't match what I have going on already. So I'm going to take those plants out and replace them with something that goes along with our theme from last week's planters. So another area that I want to tackle is the area around our front fountain. Now this area, you guys, I have had so much trouble with this area. I tried growing lavender in it this summer. Earlier this spring I planted some lavender there and it did not survive. I don't know why, but out of the 6 plants that I planted, I think only 2 ended up surviving. I don't know if I didn't give it enough water, maybe I gave it too much water in the beginning. This area gets full sun all day long, and lavender loves sun. So when my mom was down here, we tried our hand at some salvia, and I planted up 6 salvia plants in that area, and out of those, only 2 made it. So I don't know if it was a water issue, like I said, not enough water, too much water, whatever the case may have been, the plants that I was using just weren't working. So I think we're gonna have better luck with this pot-in-pot technique. So the pot-in-pot technique is exactly that. You're planting 2 pots in the ground. So the first pot is the pot that stays in the ground. You don't move that pot. And then the second pot is where you actually have your plants, whatever plants, flowers, whatever you want to plant for the season, that goes in that second pot. And then you just plunk that one into that first pot that stays in the ground. And then when you're ready to change it for the season, you just take out that top pot, exchange the plants out for whatever is in season, and there you go, voila, instant garden. So I think this technique is finally going to work for this area. I hope so anyway. So what are we waiting for? Vamos al jardín.
Okay, y'all, first thing first, what we're gonna do is set up all our plants, and I'm gonna make a little assembly line here to show y'all what I have. So in this first pot, what I'm gonna do, actually the first 4 pots, what I'm gonna do is 2 of these white ornamental kale/cabbages, 2 whites and 2 purples. So from my understanding of this is that this kale is a type of cabbage, or this cabbage is a type of kale. Can't remember at the moment, but either way, from my research on it, you can cook with this. It's just a whole lot bitter, more bitter than your regular cabbage taste. So I personally have not used it in my culinary cuisine adventures, but if some of y'all have, let me know, comment below and let me know what you think of the taste. Won't be trying any cooking with it anytime soon, but maybe I can change my mind on that once I get more experience with it. Now, the next one that I have is Dusty Miller. I just love this plant. The color, the foliage on these leaves, I just love it. I don't know what it is about this plant, but it just does it for me. This bluish/silverish tone in the leaves. It just goes so well with the other plants that we're using in this arrangement. So that is followed by all these beautiful pansies. And I found this whole tray. There's 12 little 4-inch containers in this whole tray. And look how beautiful. Oh, that one looks like an angel. Got distracted here. That one looks like little angel wings. But yeah, these are so beautiful. These pansies are so tolerant to low temperatures in my area here. Now, our winters are quite mild. But they really stand up to the cold weather here. different array of colors varying from whites to blues and purples and yellows. Now with these, I'm showing that you can just deadhead them. There were some that were, well, they were suffering a little bit because I kept them in their containers. I bought them just after the hurricane here and waited a few days to work with them. So all you have to do is pinch them right off. That's called deadheading, when you removed the flowers that have already bloomed and dried up and curled up and they're on their way out. I just pinch them with my fingers, or you can cut them with scissors. But these are so pretty, y'all, and that will definitely bring some life to the winter months ahead. I do want to show you what I'm using here as part of my soil. I'm using this Miracle-Gro Performance Organics container mix. Now, you want to look for something that says container mix, because you never want to use soil directly from your yard into containers. That is a big no-no. That it's just too compact and it won't allow water to drain properly, and your plants will suffer for it. Now to that, I'm using about 3 parts of the Miracle-Gro with 1 part of the compost. And that's just going to add a lot of nutrition to these plants over the winter months, because really you don't have to supply fertilizer to these plants over the winter, because, you know, they're not going to be growing that much. So I just use the compost mixture in there. And here we're going to set up our pot and pot. So I'm just using 2 pots, and what I found to be most cost effective was going to be to use 2 nursery containers, and I believe these were 7-gallon, maybe 5-gallon if I'm not mistaken. So basically what I'm going to do is exactly that, plant it a pot in a pot. What I'm doing is putting in the soil mixture. Like I said, we're going to start in with that potting mix and then add some compost. Now, my compost was a little bit firm because these bags, I bought them before Hurricane Ian, and I left them out and they got a little bit moist. They got a little too wet. And then we had a few nights where it dipped really down, like low into the 30s, and this compost almost froze, but working it in here to my potting mix. So then you want to mix these 2 soil types well, just aerating them, getting all those clumps broken up, and mixing them quite well. And then what we're going to do is add our Biotone starter fertilizer, and I just add just a small handful of this fertilizer to each container. So you just want to work that into the top inch or 2 of the soil, mix that in nice and loosely. And then what I'd like to do is create a center well or a hole, pushing some soil up to the sides of the container for my center plant. And you want to remove any leaves that are yellowed or have just, dried up and shriveled down, and we remove those so that pests and disease don't harbor on them. And then set your cabbage right in the middle there. The roots weren't too bound up in these nursery containers, so I didn't move those around too much or break those up too much. Then what I'm doing is adding my pansies. Now I'm just gonna go ahead and mix these up in no particular order. I want them to look just mixed all together with all the colors. So in each of the 4-inch nursery pots, there were 2 pansy plants. And I want to use 1 pansy on basically 4 sides of the cabbage. And all you have to do is break it up nice and loosely and gently. to break up the roots and split the plant down the middle. You won't hurt it, or split each plant, I should say. You won't hurt it at all. I mean, I'm kind of being a little rough, to be honest, but just work your fingers through in between each individual plant and break up the roots. The soil was quite loose, which was very helpful, and these were not pot bound at all, and so that was it was a very easy process. So you gently pull those apart and tuck them in where you want them. And I did 4 in each one, so basically we can roughly say at north, south, east, and west, if you were to split the circle container up that way. I just put 4 of them in surrounding the cabbage. I went back in and filled in with some more potting mix. And you just tuck it in and press it down into the pot. You want to make sure you don't have too much air in between, air pockets in the container, because then the roots won't make contact with the soil and they won't absorb any nutrients in the soil. So you just pack it in between each pansy root. And don't forget that when you water it, the soil is going to compact a little bit more. So I just pressed it in as much as I could when it wouldn't give any more. And then I actually do go back in after I water them. I went back in and added just a little bit more soil. Now the white cabbage and the purple cabbage, the ornamental cabbages, they do tolerate frost in all zones, and they will grow about 8 to 12 inches in height and that much in a width as well. The Dusty Miller also is cold tolerant and about the same maturity height, 10 to 12 inches tall and actually 12 to 16 inches wide on the Dusty Miller there. Now the pansies, they grow best in fall, winter, and spring. That's when they will bloom. So what I am going to try to do is in the springtime, we'll see how far into spring they survive. And then I want to move them to a shady spot in my yard and see if I can save them throughout the summer and see if they last until next fall, if I give them some protection from the heat. Summers down here in South Carolina, especially in August, can be quite warm. So I'm going to give them a little bit of protection in those summer months and see if they make it into next fall and get them to rebloom.